Bueno, me café bye. 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 Bueno, me café bye.
The Workers' Party, you and your entire family, so we know who you are, and you're going to vote for the Honorable Dominic Fede. We have the minister with us in studio, and on a beautiful Monday evening, we are inside Castries, Southeast. Mr. Minister, special good evening to you and happy Independence.
Good evening to you, Champagne, and good evening to all St. Lucians. I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy independence. 42nd anniversary.
Yes.
I know it's a very different celebration. On a day like today at 6 a.m., we would have had to be at the VG field for the parade and all of the other activities. But COVID has caused a different celebration. But I must compliment the Independence Committee for the initiatives that they have taken, the programs, the songs. I didn't get to see all of them last night, but I did get to watch a few of the performances. I think the background at Point Seraphine was really
it was nice.
a nice background to
Very beautiful.
use. So tonight I want to take the opportunity to wish all of my constituents of Castries Southeast a very happy independence anniversary. And to all St. Lucians, both here and abroad, and even those who are not born St. Lucians but have adopted St. Lucia as their home, I wish you all the best as we celebrate. And tonight we may go a bit light on the politics, but we will focus a bit on independence and some of the things that we expect as an independent nation. But I have to extend special greetings tonight, so I'll take off my mask to do so because we are socially distanced from each other. There are a couple people, there's a very special couple who celebrated their 5th wedding anniversary yesterday. That is Mr. and Mrs. Toussaint from Cooleytown. That's Stilbert and Iker. I want to take this opportunity
5 years.
to wish you all of the best for your anniversary. God's blessings, and I wish you many, many more years of happiness together. More so, apart from celebrating the anniversary yesterday, Iker celebrated her birthday today, which is the 22nd of February. So I want to wish you, Iker, a very happy birthday. Usually I wish people everything that they wish for themselves, because who best to know what they want for themselves. So I wish you and your family all the best and enjoy your birthday. I know we would have had a big celebration, both an anniversary and a birthday, had it not been for COVID. Nevertheless, we still must be thankful to God for his blessings towards us, because we are still alive, we are still well. Things could have been a lot worse. So I want to wish them all the best and wish all St. Lucians the best. We are celebrating this anniversary or the anniversary of St. Lucia's independence. I like the part "we can, we will" of the theme for this year's celebrations. A lot of it has been virtual in terms of a lot of the greetings I had to send out. I had to send it out virtually. So, but that's what technology allows us to be able to do. And a lot of people, I battled with myself a bit to decide, should I be on the show tonight or should I take a break from it? I said we didn't take a break for Christmas and we did not take a break for New Year's. So I believe that independence is a day that is worth celebrating. And since we could not be out there having activities today, then I said, I think I need to be on the program tonight so that I can wish all of my listeners, all of the regular followers of this program. And Champagne, I did not realize that there are so many people listening and following this program.
Yeah, we need to give them
everywhere I go, throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia, and in my constituency in particular, people always tell me, we are watching, we are listening, we are following what is happening inside Castries Southeast. So I wish my overseas listeners all the best, Janelle and crew, and all of the others down in New York and in Miami and all over in Texas. We have some followers there who are following the program and keeping abreast with what is happening. So I really want to wish everyone all the best, and no matter where you are, celebrating St. Lucia's 42nd anniversary of independence. And who would have dreamt that we would have had to celebrate independence almost virtually, as compared to what we have been accustomed to. And that is the uncertainty of events in the world. We did not have a major hurricane this year. We did not have an earthquake. We did not have major flooding. But look at what COVID has done to not just St. Lucia, but the entire world.
And that was weeks after our last year's celebration.
Yes, just a few weeks after. In fact, all my crew in Badney, those that I visited today and those I've visited over the last week and a half, I wish you all the best. I think one of the challenges I continue to have, Champagne, today alone, I distributed more than 2 boxes of masks to people in the constituency, because everybody who's coming to talk to me and they don't have their mask, when I tell them, no, I tell them, okay, I'll give you a mask. I stretch out my hand, give them a mask, and then they would come in and have a conversation with me.
And that's safe for both you and then your constituents.
And the persons, because we have to practice as much as possible the safety of social distancing. Now, you know, there's a sitting of Parliament tomorrow, so we have a couple bills coming to the Parliament, and we will profit the opportunity to highlight what the truth is, because there's a lot of misinformation going out there. I wanted to take this opportunity, Champagne, to big up the work that you are doing on this station.
Thank you.
Everybody knew Champagne as a red cap at Huronora.
You say I should ring the bell for myself?
Yes, you should. Everybody knew you as a red cap. Everybody knows Champagne in Bacatel. I mean, but nobody knew as a radio announcer. Nobody knew you as somebody in the public domain at that level. I know on the political side, you have always been involved. But it is amazing what time can do and determination. And you have turned out to be one of the best radio announcers.
Oh my goodness, don't say that too loud, Mr. Minister, because they already have my head on a platter.
Nobody can, everybody have.
But I owe it all to God though, always.
Everyone has what God gives them. And what God gives you, nobody can take it away from you. Your temperament, your deportment, your voice, the way you present yourself on the media. I mean, nobody would think that you had that in you, to have been so articulate, so well versed in so many areas. I mean, it would take somebody who does a bit of reading, following, keeping track of all of the events that are happening, that you can do what you are doing. And it is the diversity in what you do. So you host the prayers institution, which was framed back then, prior, leading up to independence. There were many contributors, I would think, to this document. And in the Parliament of St. Lucia, you would need a 2/3 majority in order to make any changes to the Constitution. So you would need to have at least 12 seats in the Parliament to be able to make any changes. How many governments have had the opportunity to have 12 or more seats? And how often has this happened? So we had the Labour Party, which won 16-1 and 14-3 consecutive elections. What changes did they make? We've heard so much criticism of St. Lucia and the laws, and the Labour Party will come and tell you all kinds of things about St. Lucia and what should be. What were the laws they changed? 361? To basically put a gag on the freedom of the press. they did things, but what were the substantial changes that was made? What adjustments was made to the constitution or the standing orders of the parliament? And something interesting happened at the last sitting, where the member for Viewfort North was using patois words, which if translated directly into English would amount to an insult, or words that I would consider inappropriate for the Parliament of St. Lucia. And on 2 occasions, the member for Viewfort North has done that. One time he used the patois phrase, which I choose not to mention, but it's in Hansard. Yet still our standing orders say that when it comes to the Parliament of St. Lucia, the language is English. And if you use a patois phrase or you say something in patois, you are required to give the English translation of that. And I've said that in the parliament several times.
Is that translation mandatory? You must do it, or
that's what the standing orders say. Now, I have not raised that in the parliament. And just briefly, I mentioned that the last time. And the first thing they jump on, oh, ou pa vle moun pale patois because ou pa vle se moun na kopan. Is there really a St. Lucian who does not understand English? After 42 years of independence, you are telling me that we have found ourselves. And I like to ask these men who come to the Parliament of St. Lucia, what is their contribution to people being more literate in this country? And I can tell them what my contribution. As a young man out of school and a member of my church, we started an adult literacy program in my community long before there was the adult literacy program by the government, where we were teaching the people primarily from the church congregation to read and write, to fill out a bank slip, to do basic stuff that they did not learn from school. Right. That is how far back I have gone in terms of community involvement and community development. My mother is turning 87, I think, on the 2nd of March. Wow. And my mother can pick up any book and read at 87. So it means that in her years that she went to school or she attended school, that she learned to read and write. Because those who know the history of Forestier would know that for a very long time, schools had been established in that community. When the indentured servants came in from after the slave trade, one of the very early places a school was established was in the community of Forestier. So you had children from Mac, Bexon, Geno, Tiroche, all communities around attending school in Forestier. And there were a series of principals from the school, all from the Gajada family. Now, when we did the historical trace back of the ancestors, you know, in India you have the caste system, and based on what family group you are from.
What's the system? The caste?
It's a caste system. So if you are from a family of farmers, so different titles that you hold speak to
a certain level.
Your level in life, where you'll be, who you are permitted to marry. So you may not be permitted to marry somebody outside of your caste. There's that structure within the system. So the Gajadas, when they came in, so if I recall from what my father told me, you had persons like David Gajada, then you had Lufa Gajada, and I think Harold Gajada. So you had David, then you had his son, I think, which was Harold, either son or brother, and then another. So you had 3 Gajadas for a series, for generations that were principals of the school. So the historical record of education in Forestier has been outstanding over the years because of the long history of the establishment of the Methodist Combined School in the community. And that was a school run primarily by the church. Now, why am I saying all of this? It's to point back to where we have come from and where we are today. So if after 42 years of independence, we still cannot communicate to our people in English for them to understand, primarily we have a deficiency and we are lacking in our effectiveness of educating the people of St. Lucia. Now, I have a challenge if you give me a book in Patois to read. Although I can speak Patois well enough. But if you give me a book and you tell me that's the spelling for the Patois words, I would have difficulties in following it. So we must not continue to put our people down. I mean, if you're telling a story, if you're giving a joke, there are certain things, it just comes across better in Patois. So being able to speak Patois is a big advantage, especially when you travel outside of St. Lucia. Now, amazingly, because of the technology, this phone there, the apps that are available, you can be speaking in any language to somebody, they record it, and then the phone has an app that can translate for you
into English,
whatever is said. And even Patois is there because the Haitians speak a lot of Patois. So I thought I needed to highlight that because conveniently we use the laws, we use the rules. So a parliamentarian will come to parliament and he will stand on a point of order and say, you know, Mr. Speaker, this person should not be imputing improper motive to another member of the House. That's right. That's the standing order. But the same standing order says that you should make your contribution in English and you may make statements here and there. Now, unfortunately, I did not bring my standing order. I brought my constitution tonight, but I left the standing order because I didn't think that that would have come up tonight. But I just thought it necessary to highlight that. And I know if Rick is listening tonight, Rick can because that's a discussion we've always had about why do we put rules there. And remember when my wife was on the program with me, I said that she could not wear my t-shirt or a party t-shirt as long as she worked with government. Because I believe when you want to stand on a point of authority, you have to do what is right. If you don't do what is right, how can you request of other people to do the same thing? And I thought you saw how many times the Labour Party have walked out of the Parliament of St. Lucia. And I was doing a little research. And some of the best historical political records of St. Lucia are found in these books. And I don't need to promote Rick. Rick is good enough at promoting himself. But this book, it will be all right in the morning. I have this book, which gives a lot of historical records. And I have this other book, Lapses and Infelicities. And this gives you, if you want to say in cricket in terms, ball-by-ball commentary of what the historical records have been. I think that that can fit into any encyclopedia in St. Lucia of the historical records in this country. And I would advise young people,
Yeah.
if you want to get in touch with what is happening and how to relate to the historical records of St. Lucia, these are two books that must be read.
So, Mr. Minister, let me sorry to interject. Based on you just said, you don't want to go too much into the politics, but we need to go and make a comparison because from 1979, it is 42 years. And tonight I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit to ask you, between the two political parties, I mean, I would know. But for our young people that really doesn't know too much of St. Lucia's history, and particularly the political history, where would you categorize the Labour Party in development in St. Lucia?
I expect everybody will interpret my answer as bias, and I guess there will be a level of bias because the best men, in fact, the Bible says you cannot even trust your own conscience because your conscience can mislead you. That's why you depend on God and what God says, because what you feel like doing, what your conscience allows you to do, may not always be what is right to do. So I have had the opportunity, unlike a lot of other persons, to support both political parties. So I think that I am in a position to have a more balanced view. Not necessarily 100%. I'm just saying a more balanced view than somebody who has been just on one side of the political divide. I supported UWP traditionally growing up in the community because the subject matter of politics when I grew up was Mrs. Geraldine Rock. From the community, my mother and Mrs. Rock would be, so my mother's mother and Mrs. Rock's grandmother were two sisters.
Oh, really? Okay.
So Mrs. Rock's mother, the late Mrs. Rock's mother, and my mother would be first cousin. So it tells you how closely integrated. So growing up in the community and Mrs. Rock having run elections in 1974 on a United Workers' Party ticket made it successfully one of the, I think she was the first woman elected parliamentarian in St. Lucia from the very community that I am from. So predominantly we grew up around the community, and the majority of people in Forestier today remain supporters of the United Workers' Party. My sister at the age maybe of about 15 or thereabout would have spoken on the first person in my family to speak on a political platform would have been my sister.
She's older than you?
Yes, she's older than me. So it tells you that when people come and they try to label you and they brand you, if Sir John had remained in politics and not resigned, I would maybe have never voted Labour Party in my life.
Okay.
When Sir John handed over to Dr. Vaughan Lewis, and he came up to a meeting in Forestier, I was young, vibrant, as part of the meeting. At the time, I wasn't president of the National Council on Public Transport yet, but I was very active. We had led in a major strike back in 1995 within the public transport sector. It was just a one-day strike. And that I can give the historical background to on another occasion, not tonight. But when we met, and I said to Sir John, I felt that you made a mistake in bringing Vaughan Lewis. And he tried to explain, and I tell him no. And then I had no confidence in it from there. When Dr. Anthony came as leader of the Labour Party, a lot of people believe that I caused the minibus associations to switch their loyalty or to switch to support the Labour Party. I never did that. I organized 2 meetings at the time it was Caribbees Hotel. At the time, Vaughan Lewis was the leader. Sir Vaughan Lewis was Dr. Vaughan Lewis was the leader, and Dr. Kenny Anthony were the 2 leaders. We invited both to come and address the gathering on the same day. Because Dr. Lewis was the sitting prime minister, he had the option to choose whether he was coming before or after. And Dr. Anthony was open to whatever time we gave him. We agreed, we gave Dr. Lewis a time. Time came, time gone, calls made, everything. It was a no-show by the United Workers' Party representative to meet with the minibus associations. Dr. Anthony came, and Dr. Anthony presented himself very well. He was very focused, very articulate, very open-minded towards dealing with the sector. And I can say this without fear of criticism. You can ask anybody who's knowledgeable about the public transport sector, and they'll tell you the 2 champions for the transport sector in St. Lucia remains Dr. Anthony on the Labour Party side and myself on the UWP side. And even in my discussions with the council, they've said, well, you know, we've been fortunate because if UWP is not there and the Labour Party is there, we still have somebody that we can rely on. I believe that Dr. Anthony got that appreciation for the public transport sector, primarily because of the relationship we had developed while I was president and the number of interactions and engagements that we have. And I believe today that Prime Minister Alan Chasney has the same level of interest that I have in the public transport sector and in formalizing the sector and making it the entity that it needs to be. And that is why even when the Labour Party stopped giving assistance and said they would no longer give any assistance to that public transport sector under the United Workers' Party government, Prime Minister Alan Chasney has continued to make contributions towards the public transport sector. But to narrow down on your question,
I was about to
because
ask
you may be thinking I'm giving you a long-winded answer.
I know you're getting into it.
I want people to understand that my politics is not just partisan politics. It must be based on facts. It must be based on an evaluation. I don't just take what people tell me. I have to analyze. So that's why I have all these books. Because you can tell me that's what's in the book. I will want to read it, and I will want to understand it myself. I will want to be able. So that's why in government, nobody will write speeches for me. When you write me a speech, you have to sit down and explain to me what this is. Because if I don't understand it, I will not speak about it. Because I do not regurgitate what other people do. I like to know for myself. I like to understand. And I may not have the best understanding compared to everybody else. I don't think I'm the brightest person around. I don't think so. But I equip myself with the limited knowledge that I have, the limited capacity that I have. I make use of it. So somebody may read this once and understand it. And they may read the top of the page and the bottom of the page and understand everything that it says. I may have to read the same page 3 times for me to understand. But that's how I apply myself to what I do. So when I came to terms with what was there, I weighed Dr. Vaughan Lewis and Dr. Kenny Anthony. And Dr. Kenny Anthony, young, brilliant person, I felt that he had what it takes to take St. Lucia forward. In 1997, I supported Menisa Rambali as the candidate. Young person. Good future in politics. with the potential to do things for the community. And people don't understand. I supported Menisa primarily because of Hezekiah,
Your dad.
the father. Because Labour Party, when Hezekiah decided that he wanted to run, Labour Party did not want him as the candidate. So he started doing things in the community because he was always a community person. You know, in the days of Italian B, Billy B, and when we went around the island, these are the trucks that we traveled. And Soufrière didn't have that road. So some of the hairpin bends on the Soufrière road, you had to go twice forward I remember that as a child growing up. You go on a school outing, a Sunday school outing, and these things. So the history is there. Like some people, I didn't just come on the scene yesterday and I don't understand. So I knew what it was to have a fouille and to light just wood. I knew what it was to have a tesson and coals. I know what it is to have a stove with gas. And I know what it is to have an electric stove. So I've gone through all of the stages. I wasn't born privileged with any inheritance. I learned to work early in my life. And that's what I tell people. So now I don't deal with pigs, but my first income was from rearing pigs and selling the little ones and planting garden. And you wouldn't believe that I used to go by the market with my bag of dashing, and my auntie used to put it in the piles for me because I didn't know. I was about 10 years old.
I was about to ask you, how old were you at the time?
I was about 10 years old, I'm talking about. The coal market and the fish market used to be there. So at the back of that market was black, and the sawmill was still there by where the market in Bonn is
that
there.
big black drain running into the ocean.
So that you are a little older than Bishop Payne, but I tell them, I didn't just come. I have understood these things, and I had the opportunity. And I gave Dr. Anthony, and I gave him the support because I felt that by 1998, I realized after the decision of affirmative action at the Babono Secondary School, I said no.
Were you at that meeting?
I was at the meeting. I never joined the Labour Party. They filled out a card for me. They paid the fees and everything for me to join and for me to be a delegate at that. So I was at that meeting in Babon. And I know what transpired there. At the end of the day, when I look at everything that transpired, I realized that what the late George Odlum said was true. That what it took the UWP government years to build would be destroyed by the Labour Party in no time. And that came with the coupe par coupe. Even if these things had happened,
before,
the strikes that took place, the burning of the banana sheds, and all of the destruction of an industry that was vital to the well-being of the economy of St. Lucia, and more so the rural economy, because that is what we depended on. I sold bananas when you had to carry the bananas to the boxing plant by the bunch, and you had to pile it up, and then you would use the same dry banana leaves to put in between so that the fingers from one hand don't rub on the others to get bruised. And you would have to stay there 2 days, because in those days there was a wide area, and you would put the bananas, they pile up in bunches on top of each other. We could not afford the half-inch foam that some people would put in between. So we would use the dry banana leaves. And you had to help everybody to raise the bunches of bananas to be selected and put in a big, what we call a back. But it was really a big tank of water, and they would wash it to deflower it, because in those days you did not deflower the bananas from on the tree as we did afterwards. So imagine you have to, and they didn't have that many roads. That's where Sir John did an excellent job in developing the rural communities. Every community now have roads, and you could drive there and you could pick up your produce. In those days, you had to walk sometimes almost a mile with a bunch of bananas on your head to get to a boxing plant to sell these bananas. And then they used to come with the little box with all the money to pay the farmers with the slip on it. Most of the young people today, they don't know these things. So when we talk about independence and where we have come from and where we are today, and that's why I tell people, in analyzing the two political parties, I supported Labour in 1997. By 1998, I realized we were going in the wrong direction. And I told Dr. Anthony that
told him that?
in a conversation. I told him, I just feel very sad that the direction that things are going is not what we anticipated.
So you were not a member of the Labour Party, but what authority you had to speak to the Prime Minister because of you were part of the Minibus Association?
Yes, I was president of the National Council on Public Transport. By then, I'd been elected president.
Okay.
And because it was Michael Flood, Victor Jean-Pierre, and these persons who were there prior to myself, Skelly, that's Robert Gajad, all of these people were involved.
Right.
So they brought me in. So I got elected as president without serving in any previous position on the executive of the council.
Okay.
So my first position on the executive
president.
was as president. From being just an affiliate person who they would just invite to attend meetings because they felt that I had a contribution to make.
So what was his response when you asked him?
He had a different point.